Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm going to be your host, the Irrelevant Nerd. Today, we're going to be ranking every live-action Batman film. I was going to do all of the theatrically released Batman films, so you have Lego Batman in there, which I enjoy the movie, but it's just obviously a different type of movie, as well as you'd have like Mask of the Phantasm in there, which I actually think there's a strong argument that that might be the best Batman movie ever. You'd have the Killing Joke in there because it did technically get a small release in theaters, and that was the Killing Joke was definitely a movie that was made. So a lot of those movies won't be included, and I couldn't do every Batman movie just because, if you include the animated ones, there's so many. Honorable mention to Under the Red Hood, which I do think also has an argument of maybe being the best Batman movie ever made, but we're going to stick with the live action ones that were released theatrically, excluding, obviously Lego Batman. And I have seen other people include this in their list because he does show up, but I'm also going to exclude the 2016 Suicide Squad movie because while he is in that movie, that is like the very definition of a cameo. So I'm not going to count that. If it were in the ranking, it would be near the bottom. Not the biggest fan of the first Suicide Squad movie, but here we go. So starting at number 12, we have Batman and Robin. There really isn't a whole bunch new that I can add to this conversation of how truly terrible this movie is. I did enjoy it when I was a kid. I think I saw it for the first time when I was like 9 or 10, and so the comedy worked for me because it's very, childish, and I liked a lot of the quips, but then it's one of those movies you go back and rewatch and you're like, what is happening? The characterization of the villains is just terrible. What a waste of Bane. Like, what an absolute waste. So I think this justifiably goes at the very bottom of any Batman movie list, animated, theatrically released or not. This is very near the bottom of any list. Number 11, I'm going to go with the original release, I believe 2017, of the Justice League or the Justice League, whatever you want to call it. The movie is terrible. It's one of those movies that after the Zack Snyder Justice League was released and you saw all of the changes that they made, it only made the movie even worse, so much so that I didn't really want to rewatch it after I saw it the first time, but after I saw Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League, I will never go back and watch the original 2017 release of the Justice League because it's just awful. Number 10, we're going to go with Batman Forever. This movie, I actually think there is a lot of potential in, and I have heard that there's, supposedly alternate cuts of the movie that were maybe a little darker, maybe a little less, unhinged in certain moments, and I'd be very interested in seeing it because I do see the potential for a really good Batman here. I think Val Kilmer is actually a pretty solid choice. I think he's a little, stiff as Bruce Wayne. He goes more for the stoic angle, which I do like, but his portrayal of that just comes across very stiff. But I do like him as Batman, and I think his Bruce Wayne could have worked if it just had been tweaked a little bit. Number 9, we're gonna go with The Flash. Now, this movie is pretty bad. I understand that there are some people who do like it, and I don't think it's as bad as a lot of the internet says. It's got a lot of fun, cool things going for it. You have the multiple Batmen, you have the alternate, Supergirl who replaces Superman in the story, you have the 2 different versions of Flash, the good, the one who ends up being the bad guy, and I think there is something to the emotional side of this movie that actually really does work, but the story itself is kind of I don't know. It's just lackluster. It's a little bit boring when you're watching through it and everything's sort of happening. The special effects also, I know that like doesn't make a great movie, but I do think it can break a movie in certain ways. There is some CGI in this movie that is so bad that it just pulls you out of the moment, and that is one of those things that even kind of pulls the emotional moments down when you see the CGI and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, the budget for this movie is insane. Why does this movie look like this? And so I think it justifiably flopped at the box office, especially compounded on with just the quality of the movie. Had all that Ezra Miller stuff that really, I think, just kind of put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and were very surprised that the movie wasn't recast. But anyways, so yeah, justifiably near the bottom of the list. And so now we're going to go to number 8. And from number 8 up, I do enjoy all of these movies. These are all movies that I would rewatch. Obviously, some I enjoy less than others, but these are all movies that I like. I think there's something to enjoy about the Batman character in each of these movies. So at number 8, we have Batman versus Superman, but I am going to specify the Ultimate Edition. The theatrical release of this movie is bad, and I know that this is a ranking of the theatrically released movies, but the Ultimate Edition of this movie, it's about 45-ish minutes longer, and it just fleshes a lot out. And I think that Batman is the best part of this character, and I do think that warehouse scene when he is just destroying people is maybe the best Batman action scene of any of the movies, just in terms of how cool it is to watch him fucking dudes up. But I do have some problems with this characterization of Batman. I don't like how, flippant he is about killing people. It's pretty obvious that kind of goes against like the major characterization of the Batman from the comics. And I know that it really was kind of popularized and cemented by the Nolan trilogy, but that is something that has been in the Batman comics for a very, very long time. And So I don't love that, but I do like an aged Batman. I think Ben Affleck actually does a really good job, despite like all the hate that he got pre the movie coming out. I thought he was big, buff, fit the role. I liked that characterization. I liked his Bruce Wayne and his rapport with this version of the Jeremy Irons Alfred. So pretty solid in my opinion, especially once you watch that Ultimate Edition and it kind of fleshes everything out a little bit. It's pretty solid. Number 7, we're going to go with Batman 89. And I know for sure that this is going to piss a ton of people off because they either have this as the number 1 or top 3. And again, I like all of these movies, and so the fact that it's at number 7 isn't bad. I know that's the bottom half of the list, but there's some good movies on this list, and I do like this movie. However, I have never bought Michael Keaton as a physically imposing enough person to be Batman, and I also don't love his version of Bruce Wayne. He seems a little timid and awkward, which I understand. He's an odd dude. He dresses like a bat and beats the shit out of people at night, but I don't like the fact that he seems so different, because when people are running through their head of like, oh, who are all the people who have the capability of Batman? Like, well, what about this billionaire weirdo? Like, I don't know. I don't love it. I do love Jack Nicholson's Joker. Obviously the highlight of the movie. But overall, I don't love the look of the Tim Burton Batman movies, either of them. I think they're a little too dark, and there obviously are some limitations with the technology that time, like some of the CGI of the buildings doesn't hold up super well, but again, I do like this movie, and I'm probably kind of sounding more negative on it than I'm meaning to, but I think that number 7 is a fair enough rank of it. Number 6, Batman Returns. I think this one is better than the original Batman movie in almost every measurable way. I think that Michael Keaton's performance is better. I think as great as Jack Nicholson is as the Joker, I think the arc of these villains is better, and the characterization is really kind of on point for the universe that Tim Burton's kind of trying to make here. You have Michelle Pfeiffer, just iconic as Catwoman, and Danny DeVito, just great Penguin. I remember as a kid, he just scared the shit out of me. Like when he's eating that fish, like it's pretty dark shit to have in a movie that is, primarily aimed at kids. Like my stepdad watched it, but I like this one just a touch more. I've also find it to be much more just rewatchable because the pacing of the movie to me is a little bit quicker, and so I've probably seen this one twice as many times as I've seen the first one. So this is my favorite of like the late 80s, early 90s Batman movies. And to me, it's much better than Batman 89. So it's like significant gap there. Number 5, I'm going to go with The Dark Knight Rises, which I also know is going to piss a lot of people off that I would have this above Batman Returns and Batman 89. I will say I am biased towards Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker. I just really like the way that he makes movies, and this is one of those movies that has grown like more hated on over time on the internet, and I think that's the more popular opinion to have. But I think there's a lot to really love about this movie. It does have flaws for sure. Like Talia al Ghul's death is terrible. The fact that Bane was just her bitch the entire time, kind of a bummer. I would have preferred him to stay the villain, and it's a real shame that they couldn't figure out a way to end the villain arc in a more satisfying way. But outside of that, I like almost everything about the movie. There's obviously a lot less Batman than you're used to, but Bruce Wayne's a big part of the character, and I kind of like how much you get to see of him. So for me, I personally enjoy it better. And so this is just kind of, my subjective ranking. So I would rather rewatch this movie than Batman Returns or Batman 89 any day of the week. Number 4, Zack Snyder's Justice League. I was 100% in that camp of people that were like, this movie is never going to happen. I'm sick of seeing people talk about it online. You need to let it go. And I have never been more happy than to be so wrong about one of these trends on the internet. This movie is fantastic, and it is really well loved. I think it's massively underrated. There is a little fluff in it because they just included everything since it was releasing straight to streaming. So I think there is about 20-30 minutes you could cut out and have a really just great movie, but I don't mind them keeping it all in because the movement online was so big. Like if you're going to go for it, you might as well just go for it. And I think it really paid off. Everything about this movie is dramatically better than what Joss Whedon was able to kind of warp the movie into. And I don't understand WB's hesitation with Zack Snyder's universe. Like I understand that they weren't super critically loved, but they are the highest money makers of the entire DCEU, or the ones that Zack Snyder made. Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's hard to say how much money it would have made in theaters. I would be willing to bet that it would have made more than what the 2017 versions did. But I'm not really sure why they squeezed him out and warped so badly what he was trying to do, because I think this is such an underrated movie, and despite it being 4 hours long, I find myself wanting to come back and rewatch it, every 4 to 6 months, and I won't watch it all at once. I'll watch half or a fourth, and because it does actually kind of break it down into sections where you can there are logical stopping points where you can take a break, and it doesn't really kill that much momentum. But I think despite the fact that it was released and considered successful, very underrated. Love the depiction of Batman in here and the effect that he can have on the team around him. And just the characterization, I think, is very strong. And in a lot of ways, I think that his Bruce Wayne is probably... it's like the most likable of all of the live action ones that you've seen. Just kind of seems like a dude you could chat with. Number 3, I am going to go with The Batman. I had rewatched this movie recently, changed my entire opinion on the movie, went from thinking it was, middle of the pack, C+ movie at best, to this is an A movie. This is a great Batman movie. The only detective story that we've, only real detective story, because it is the whole movie that we've gotten. I do think the acting is strong from every cast member. The story is great. The world setup is great. I just, as I said in my last video, there are some things that hold it back. It is just a little bit too long. Don't love Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. Hate his relationship with Alfred. Cannot stress that enough. But beyond that, and I guess the squirrel suit kind of bothered me a little bit too. But beyond that, I think this is a fantastic movie. And I really, despite the delays and my worry that it could still be cut because of how James Gunn has been operating DC, I'm very excited for the future of this Batman in particular. I do not want them to pull this Batman into the DCU. I'll say that now. I don't want that. Christopher Nolan's was a grounded, realistic take. I get that. This next Batman that we get, Ben Affleck, is more fantastical. And then we get back to a very grounded take, which they don't all have to be like that. But this world they crafted is the thing I'm most excited about, and I don't want it to be changed for the world of the DCU. Just do your own Batman with Alan Ritchson. Make the call. He offered to do it for Richardson. He offered to do it for free. Just cast him. I think he'd be a great choice, and he's obviously a big lover of the comics based off of all of his work in the space before. But yeah, I think this is a great movie, but those things that I mentioned, I think, do hold it back below the top 2. Number 2, I'm going to go with Batman Begins. I think that this is a flawless version of Batman's origin story put on screen. It's obviously not like a direct adaptation of Batman Year One or anything like that. It obviously has some inspirations from there for sure. But the way they build his mythos so quickly, he goes through the training, which I love. It establishes how badass he is, why he is as badass as he is, and it shows him learning these techniques for engaging multiple people at once, big groups of people at once, tricking people. And so I think it's perfectly set up. And I do find the plot of the League of Shadows, being the people who trained him, and then he's ultimately the one who has to stop them, to be very compelling stuff. I think Christian Bale nails it. I love Liam Neeson in almost everything that he's in, even his not so great action movies that he's made since Taken. He is still good in them because, he's fucking Liam Neeson. He's awesome. But I thought they really nailed it. And when they had announced that they were doing a new, more grounded take on Batman, I was actually a little disappointed because, it was 2005, I was 14, and I was hoping for a build up to Justice League. I wanted a more fantastical, but I was blown away by this movie the first time I saw it, and I like it more and more every time that I watch it. I think it's beautiful in every way. Number 1, The Dark Knight. This is the obvious choice for, I think, a lot of obvious reasons. It has the best villain of any Batman movie in Heath Ledger's Joker. Paul Dano's Riddler in The Batman I also think is very good and up there, but Heath Ledger just killed it. This Joker is magnetic, obviously different than he is in the comics, but the way that he's crafted, like the multiple stories of how he's got his scars and all the little mannerisms that Heath Ledger had, kind of due to the prosthetics on his face, just fit the character so well. And every scene he's in, it is, you can't take your eyes off it. It's fantastic. Christian Bale kills it as Batman. I think I do like the suit in Batman Begins a little bit more than this suit. I don't know. This one just looks very, militaristic, which I get because they say that it was designed for the military, but I don't dislike it by any means. It's just not my favorite Batman suit. I think that's Ben Affleck's probably. I just like it the best. But Christian Bale, very good here. And the plot is fantastic. It's a great crime movie. And the battle for Gotham's soul and the point that the Joker is trying to make and how he makes it with trying to tear down Harvey Dent, who, again, acted awesomely. The whole movie just works on every level. Directing, action, music, the work of models and miniatures here to be able to do a lot of the bridge chasing with practical effects, as well as them actually flipping the semi-truck. It was a great shot. Maybe my favorite shot of the whole movie, just from a aesthetic level. But Christopher Nolan just nailed it. Now, Christopher Nolan's movies are not a great representation of the comics by any means, and I get that, but if you're going to create an Elseworld story, this is absolutely the way to do it. And it is so well beloved that, like, a lot of people, when they picture Batman in their heads, this is the version of the character that they most know, most relate to, most love. And I think it's all done for good reason. He crafted a trilogy of amazing movies. But this one, to me, it just takes the cake. I've loved it ever since it came out, and have only loved it more and more as I've gone on, and appreciated it more and more as, these other Batman movies have come out. So that's all the 12 movies ranked 12-1. Let me know where your rankings might be. Let me know, how wrong I am on Batman 89 or The Dark Knight Rises, and whether or not you think that Justice League, Flash, Batman v Superman should be included. I do, mostly because he is either the, main character or main supporting character in all of those movies. So I think the argument can be made that they are Batman movies. But, let me know. Let me know where I'm wrong. Let me know where I'm right. And I'll see you guys in the next one.